Hello and welcome to another episode of the BashTalk podcast. Today I have none other than Nelson's very own Ajaz Qureshi as a special guest today. Now Ajaz is someone who has done a lot of things and I'm very, very happy to have him on because I think he provides a very different perspective for a lot of the younger people to look up to. So Ajaz has done poetry, he's written a book, he's really into his literature, and he's done a lot of things that you wouldn't normally associate with, dare I say it, someone from our town. So Ajaz, if I can ask you just to roll with it and introduce yourself, please.
Well, thank you very much, Bash, for that great introduction. It's always hard to listen to something about yourself. Yeah, I think Bash is right there. I have had quite a vast kind of life and experience, and I've just kind of been open to whatever experiences there are out there. And, I kind of run into life head forward. So, a little bit about me, as Bash said, I am Ajaz. Um, I'm a local artist, writer, and just creative. But I want to say more than that. I'm a focal member of the community. I want to be a focal member of the community and do things that are very community based and based alongside people. So I think that's a nice little.
Yeah. Because a lot of the main purpose behind what I'm doing with this podcast is bringing community figures in and highlighting issues. So normal format that I have is I start off by asking people a little bit about the kind of background and kind of upbringing and how they got to where they were. So let's take it right back then. Agenda High School, yeah.
Agent High School, yeah. I think it starts a little bit further back than that.
Oh yeah, yeah. If you want to
I'm
go there, if you want to go there,
I
yeah.
want to say I'm a third generation Pakistani immigrant. I come from that kind of background. So I think we all kind of, well, me and Bash probably know the background that we kind of come from. But yeah, my father came from Pakistan. He built a little life here. He had 4 kids. I was one of them.
Mashallah.
Yeah, and I'm really happy for the little kind of grounding that they provided me, and like the family life that they're giving us, that stability that they have. Even though they had very little, they kind of give everything that they had towards us and pushed us into education and doing things like from very young. I remember my mum taking me, while working a full-time job, taking me to any extracurricular activities, whatever I wanted to do, football and karate and air cadets and all of these kind of
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
My mum was always just like, yeah. And then I don't think I appreciated it that much at that point, but I think all of them grounding activities really made me like help me become who I am today. Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah. Other than that, I did go to a gent. I do also want to say I went to Primer High School as well. So I had a kind of a contrasting experience. Primer is in Cone, which is the next town on from Nelson, and Cone is predominantly kind of
Yeah. Yeah.
white residents, and Nelson, although predominantly white, it has a huge Pakistani population. So, I went to Comprim at high school first, and I had one kind of schooling there, and then later on in year 10, I went to Ajay, and then I did my GCSEs in year 10, which
Okay.
was predominantly Pakistani.
Okay. And then I think it's agenda that because there's one mutual friend I have that you have that proper bigging you up before and I was even telling him I've got him on the podcast and stuff. Tika, Atik Rahman, yeah, he's mashallah, he's saying very good things about you as well. But so you in that year on you
Yeah,
basically.
I mean that. Yeah, I have to say, Atik is probably my oldest friend. We went to nursery together,
Oh,
so
mashallah.
I have them early memories with Atik as well. And he's quite a prolific guy as well,
Yeah,
and he's
yeah.
always been open to all of these community-based activities. And
I
yeah,
think I need to drag him on at some point.
definitely, he's got a lot to say and a lot to give.
Yeah, yeah. So you started off. So let's start your story from Edge End. Now, when you went through your high school experience, what was the? How did you come out of high school? So was it a case of you were like right, all fully focused on academic aspects, and you were like right, I'm student of the year, or was it the other way around? How'd it go?
I think it was a mix of both. I don't want to say I was academically gifted, but there was something there. There was an inkling of intelligence or passion for something, but I wasn't really academically like there. I didn't really do too well in my GCSEs. I got 5 really good GCSEs in the ones that I got. The rest of them, I just failed them. I wasn't really paying attention, I think. And, school is kind of this place where you're trying to find yourself, and there's a lot of ego involved. As in,
Yeah.
like, I don't want to be part of this school or
Yeah.
something of that essence, you know. So I did manage to get into A levels. So I did A levels in Burnley College, but then I kind of dropped out and I just wandered off and did my own
Yeah.
few little things.
Did you
Yeah.
find that you, because there's a thing where sometimes when I'm kind of dealing with some of the younger viewers and listeners, like sometimes the path seems to be a bit too defined when it's a case of you got to go to high school and you got to do your A levels and whatever equivalent and you've got to do this, and hence if you don't do that, life's going to be difficult for you. Whereas I guess the point I'm making is just because you don't do that, there are other things you can do.
Definitely, definitely. I mean, I tried my hand at all sorts of stuff. I can jump through it. I went to Blackburn College to study media, and then I went to Leeds College of Building. I tried to become an electrician. Yeah, I became a kitchen designer. There was all sorts of things that I did do after. So I was designing kitchens at 18 and 19, and really into that kind of building industry. Um, but I just kind of fell into that. I can tell you the story of how I fell into that, but it might be a little bit different than what we're talking about. But yeah, there is kind of so many paths that you can take, and I think there is a lot of pressure on young people to make that choice at that time.
Yeah.
You know, you have to do well in this moment, and you know. But I do understand the pressure because that early schooling that you have kind of does define your kind of trajectory, where you're going to go and how you're going to
Yeah.
go. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's important to find a balance, I think, because there's also a lot of pressure from the place that you live and the people that you see around you.
Because do you like in nowadays it was like you'd basically be like, right, doctor, engineer, and if you couldn't be any of those, maybe IT, lawyer. If it wasn't one of those kind of four vocational areas, then generally there was just, it's not that that is the case, but the
Yeah.
perception was, oh, then he's not really going to do
It
much.
is kind of a stigma, and it's, you know, I was talking about the immigrant generation that came here, and it's funny that they have that stigma when a lot of them came from small villages, and you know, and they see, maybe they saw that them coming here,
Yeah.
our children are going to be, you know, all wearing the wigs of a barrister and
Uh,
arguing the best of cases, and they did envision that greatness for
yeah.
us, and there is a bit of pressure from there as well. I think our generation who are having children now, and we've alleviated that pressure, but there is still a bit there. You've got to become a doctor or
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, even to be honest, with this generation now, you see a real marked difference because even I mean, mashallah, you mentioned in your parents' case, it's really good that you mentioned that they kind of like, extracurricular activities, but for most of our lot, it wasn't typical to have that. Whereas
yeah,
now
it
you've got
wasn't
parents
typical.
invested. They'll be like,
Yeah,
football, cricket, whatever they want to do,
football is a
just
huge thing. Yeah,
keep them going, and stay interested in their actual activities. They're more invested in them emotionally as well. It's not just a case of, I hate to say it this way, but have as many kids as you can, and then just hopes one of them becomes a doctor or something. And I don't want to frame it that way, but that was unfortunately one of the things that used to happen as well. But so that's one stage of your life. So you've gone through and you're kind of trying out different things, falling into different areas, and you're thinking maybe I'll give this a go, a bit of kitchen design, a bit of
yeah.
building, or different industries. But now you're at a point where obviously I don't want to like steal your thunder because you're going to lead into it, but you've got some
Mm.
milestones in your life and accomplishments. And how did you go about getting to where you are now?
I don't think it was a conscious choice that I was going to publish a book and become a poet and do the work that I do at the moment. I think I was just writing for a long time. Not even in my childhood. A lot of writers that I come to, they say, "Oh, I was writing since I was 5 years old. I wrote my first story in childhood, and I found a love for it." I think my writing came after many years of me trying to find my voice. I might put a disclaimer or something? What do you call it when you?
Yeah, it's a disclaimer, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
So when I
disclaimer.
was when I was when I was young, I don't think I could speak very well, and I remember one of my earliest memories is going to speech therapy. Yeah, so perhaps I couldn't say S's or I couldn't say R's. I had
Yeah,
flat
yeah.
R's, and so I remember saying, you know, the biscuits in the tin,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
the
yeah.
rats rang the bell, and I remember repeating these things. And perhaps as I got older, I didn't really know how to say something or articulate myself in the right way. And not that I used my voice for anything good. But when I, as most poets come to it, I came through to poetry through a heartbreak. So, I was a bit brokenhearted. I didn't know what to say. So I started writing these weird little notes and things, and they were quite poetic. And I think they were a little bit above the normal language that I used, or that was used.
Is the source of the heartbreak classified, or would you want to talk about that?
That's just life, isn't it?
Nice. Yeah,
Heartbreak.
yeah.
That's
Yeah, yeah.
just, it happens to most people that
And
live.
it's just a case of, so you're at a point where you felt sorrow or heartbreak, and one of your outlets, I guess to say, was a kind of form of expression where you've just maybe just jotted a few notes down and something. Let's keep going.
Yeah, I think it was that heartbreak that made me start writing. Although I had lots of influence from other people that were writers that I didn't really class as writers, like the local rappers, like there was Jav from Brightfield,
Jeff
who,
Carsey,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
And I was always impressed by him. How can he rap so well? Does he write these himself? And
yeah.
I tried, I could never ever do it. But it's not that I couldn't do it, it's just that I didn't have enough time to practice and, sit down at the page and just keep working at it. So yeah, back to what I was saying earlier, it wasn't a conscious choice to become a writer. I was just writing, and then slowly but surely I started writing, and it became like a daily discipline. I used to wake up, I used to write my diary, Assalamu alaikum, dear diary, and then came from there, just write my day and then write notes, and weird thoughts came to me. Like we all have strange,
Yeah, yeah.
crazy thoughts, and it's just about capturing them in that right moment and putting them down on the page.
Okay.
And suddenly it became 10 years of me writing, 15 years of me writing, and it's just been every day. But I think it's not been the same type of writing. It's been, it's like when you're training to do anything, you discover all aspects of it.
So it's like you would have started off like almost haikus, like small
Yeah,
bits.
small little things,
And
and
then you've kind of like, you've got to a point where I'm assuming you've reached out and spoke to other kind of people in the industry and they've kind of maybe guided you a little bit, or?
definitely. See, when I did go back to college in my adulthood, I think I was like 21, which is not, it's like early adulthood. But most of my peers had like progressed, and
Yeah, yeah, crept
yeah.
on.
So I traveled for a bit, I came back to Burnley, Nelson, um, decided to go to college, and I did an access course. So you can do this like 1 year access course that if you don't have any qualifications above school, um, you can just
Yeah, yeah,
do
yeah.
this access course,
Get
and then
on. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and through the access course I went on to do a degree, and I did my degree in English Lit and creative writing, and it was just by choice that I did it. And this is another disclaimer here, that I didn't actually have any writing when I went to like writing to show when I went for my interview at university. One of my best friends, who I should have also mentioned, is Versk. KV is called. He's a prolific rap artist. And I asked him, I said, can I borrow one of your verses? And so I wrote his verse out and I give it to the university, and they accepted it. So I got into the course through his,
Yeah.
yeah. But the course really did teach you how to write. So it's really difficult to say teach you how to write. It really like motivated you to write, showed you the different kinds of writing that were out there and what people use writing for. And isn't writing is not a singular thing, it's a universal thing. Like everybody in every culture in every age has some form of writing, or has come across some form of writing.
Yeah.
People have used it throughout history, so
I think I'm gonna jump in at this point, and for the benefit of the other viewers, I'm just gonna say that you might be thinking why, like, I find it so profound that I'm interviewing someone that's a writer, and you're pointing out what's the big deal, because my audience, my subscribers are mixed. Some people are white, some people are Pakistani. Is more that in the Pakistani community, having someone who's a writer is not like the norm. It really isn't. I mean, we have a rich culture of it,
yeah.
but for this generation, it's very rare to have someone that's willing to just be like, right, I'm a writer. Like to actually have that. So listen, this is what I do. This is how I express my emotions. This is what I'm writing. I'm putting pen to paper, and kind of translating your feelings into that. Because I've never known anyone else from the South Asian diaspora, like for this area, to do that. And maybe I need to widen my horizons and get to know more people. But generally, there isn't a big scene, is there?
Writing is a very personal thing. So I think a few people do write, but they do keep it to themselves. I mean, having a published book is something that is quite big. It's been, like I said, 15 years before I even attempted it. So
Yeah.
it's a huge thing. And
Take
yeah,
me. You.
I just want to
Go
add to that, even the idea of Pakistan came from a piece of writing, or a poem,
Yeah.
Yeah, so even the place that they came from, And I think writing is beyond what a singular person is. It's like actually trying to get your thoughts and giving them to other people and allowing them to read them and think about them in their own time.
Yeah.
You know,
So take me through. So you've got a book.
I have a
How
book, yeah.
how did you get from doing the access course,
Yeah.
completing the access course, and then getting yourself into a position where you have your own fully fledged book?
So it's been a long journey. I mean, I did the access course in 2013, and I did my degree in 2014. I graduated that. No,
Okay.
sorry, I graduated in 2014. So I did the access course in 2009 or 10.
Okay. Yeah.
And in 2022, I graduated from a master's degree. So it's been that long of a schooling journey, and it hasn't been concurrent. I've been doing it.
Getting on with
Yeah.
other things as well. Yeah.
So I worked a lot. I traveled and worked a lot then. But the reason that I did the degree and I thought I was a writer. I had a good few pieces of writing. I wasn't really professional in my writing, in my how I brand myself, how I give myself to the public, and so it was a big struggle for me. I always used to think that, oh, somebody's gonna find me and just pick me out and think, you have some super talent. Let me here's £10,000, do something with it. I always thought it would be like that. I didn't know that, especially in the modern world, you have to kind of push yourself out there and
Yeah.
say this.
Yeah.
And so I will say that I did a teaching degree, and after my teaching degree, I was looking for work. And one of the places that I got work was Saudi Arabia. So I traveled out to Saudi. I lived there for a year. And during that time, COVID happened. So I ended up back in the UK and I was looking for something to do. I was like, I need a career change. Not a career change, but I'm looking for something else. And I was looking online and I saw this master's course. It said a master's in creative practice. If you have a research subject, come to us and we'd allow you to do a master's in it. So I just ideated it a little bit and then I applied. I applied randomly. I didn't even tell my parents or anything like that because they would have thought it was a bit weird for me to be going back to do a master's degree. But anyway, I applied, I got the place, I did the degree. It was quite difficult, but I think that degree really showed me. So, creative practice is something like research through creativity. And so I really looked at places because I traveled and lived in so many places. And become a person in so many different places. So I was really interested in this idea of place. So that's what my master's degree is about. That's what my thesis is about. It's about the idea of space and place.
Okay. And was Nelson any inspiration for it?
Yeah, so that's why the collection is called Full Nelson. But I just want to say that it was the master's degree that really honed my skill and made me push myself out there as a writer. Like, okay, look, you are a writer. You've been doing it for years. Your writing is good. Put it out there. Other people need to read it. People need to do it. And if this is what you want to have as your legacy, you have to put yourself forward.
Do it. Just do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just do it. And so I really want to thank my master's lecturers because they helped me so much just to say, just do it. I needed somebody like that in my life to say, just do it.
Yeah.
So
Because I think if you were to go to someone on the street, around every street now, and say, "Oh, I'm thinking of writing a book," you could probably hit a needle drop somewhere, couldn't you? Because there just isn't that appetite. But there will be now. Now that they can get.
now that something exists, they
Now
see
that
it,
someone's become a front runner, someone's actually gone out and done it. In that same way, now people will be like, actually,
So it's about someone supporting you. So look, in my day-to-day life, I tutor and I mentor and I help people write and I edit a lot of work for people. And I know part of my work is mentorship. It's like keeping people motivated and giving them that response they need, giving them that second idea of what they can do with their work, where they can put their work. Just give them that inspiration that they do need.
yeah.
I mean, I'm quite hardcore as well. I tell them that the work is bad. I'm like, this is terrible. Yeah, but in that same time, I'm like,
Making sure.
this is for you. Yeah, make sure you do it. Make sure you push yourself
But
forward.
it's like, I'll be honest with you, when in English in high school, I never at the time kind of enjoyed the literature aspect. Maybe because I just didn't have the attention span. I really didn't have it. So I think we did some Shakespeare stuff. It might have been Macbeth. I can't remember what it was. And then you kind of think, all right, cool. I'll do what I have to do to get the
Yeah,
grade.
of course.
But I think sometimes maybe when you get later in life, you start kind of slowly starting to notice things. And you can, like, as an example, as silly as this might be the worst example. So tell me if it's a bad example. So even like, you know, like The Lion King,
Yeah.
that's basically Hamlet.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Yeah. Of
It
course.
is.
It's just the same story retold.
Whereas if you watch it, if you watch it as a Disney animation, it's like, well, as soon as you mention it's like, all right, we're gonna go through a bit of Hamlet in the English lesson. All of a sudden, I was like, oh, I've got to do a homework assignment on this. I can't be bothered. But it's just about like how would you even how are you gonna make it interesting for them? I guess.
Well, Shakespeare is quite far removed from us because he's 5 centuries, 6 centuries ago. So I mean, we do give it, but you tell people that the thing that I said to you, literature is universal, and like Shakespeare was writing then. If you write today in 300, 400 times, you might be revered as like a Shakespeare. But writing is about their expression. So I teach writing. Um, the one thing that I do tell, because a lot of people tell me that they don't read poetry, and I say, a lot of people tell me they don't read. And I say, well, you're scrolling on social media all day, all these memes that you're reading and all these texts that you're reading and the comments that you give, it's all reading. You are reading. But a trick to poetry is if you struggle to read a poetry, just read it out loud. Read it out loud. That's the trick. Yeah,
Ah,
because yeah,
I get
because
you.
you can't mistake language when it's read out loud, or you might not understand a word or two, but it does have that real essence of
I think sometimes it forces you to think about it a bit deeper because you might read a few lines and be like, I get it. Actually, no, I don't think I get it. And then you read it back again, and then maybe you'll forget about it, and then you'll randomly be doing something a month later, and then something will happen and be like, I think I know what that
yes,
was.
yes.
That makes sense.
That's perfect because that's the kind of poetry I go for. I don't like these. A lot of Pakistani poetry, for example, is them overt and couplets. Hi, hi, hi. They get the couple of lines in and
Yeah,
they
yeah,
get
yeah.
that. But I like to find something that's really hidden and put it in there. So if somebody reads it 2 or 3 times, they're like, I think I know what it means. I'm not 100% sure, but it's there. There is I try to hide it in that way, but also make it accessible.
It's like when, like on social media, like someone's going through a breakup or something and start breaking out the Rumi quotes. And it's like, oh, here we go.
Yeah.
Someone get emotional. But
And
yeah.
so back to that thing about not understanding literature, I read a book, and one of my favorite books of all time. It's called A Brief History of Seven Killings, and it's by an author called Marlon James, and he's from like the Caribbean, Jamaica. And he wrote this book, and it's written in like patois. So when you read it, it's really difficult, but it's a lot of different characters in it. So there's like I should give the background of the book. The book is about Bob Marley, right?
All
But it's
right.
but it's not about Bob Marley. It's about everything else. It's like the political state. So Bob Marley's mentioned in the book, I think, once by name, and the rest of the time he's called Singer. So he's not just like on the peripheries of the book.
So is it almost like it's setting the context, the scene, the
Yeah,
background for everything for that time?
yeah, and it's just about the political state, the ghettos that they live in, and the mind state, and it's just an unreal book. It's really big. I think he won the Man Booker Prize for it, which is quite a prestigious prize.
Yeah.
And yeah, at first I couldn't get into it at all. I couldn't get into it at all. But then I realized I just have to read it in the voice of like that patois person, and it
Yeah.
just came to life.
Uh,
And it really, really like it's a great book. I'd recommend it. It's really hard to read if you don't read it in that patois voice.
yeah, yeah,
An interesting story though. I was reading it on the back of a bus, and I saw this older white lady also reading the book, and it was really interesting that she was reading the book. So caught her attention and showed her. I said, "Oh, the book." So I went and sat with her and talked to her. I said, "How did you get it?" She said, "Once I got the voice, it was perfect." But it's a lot. It's about like the CIA involvement in Jamaica. It's I can't even do it justice in this little.
Yeah, no, no, it does sound interesting because I think, one of the things, I mean, without deviating too off topic, but one of the things with, say, the music scene and the kind of things that went on in Jamaica back in those days as well, it was, I think we just never really understood the context because as prejudiced as this sound, people just think of like a Jamaican guy and think, oh, he's just singing about his ganja and about his weed,
Yeah.
whereas there's far more to it.
It's
Oh man, it's
very
so deep.
complex. Yeah, I mean,
and then you got a, I
I
know
mean,
that,
they're a diasporic nation themselves, the whole of Jamaica.
yeah,
So
yeah, and then you've got a guy that's
there's a
kind of
lot of
like,
Indian influence in Jamaica as well.
yes,
Yeah, that's where
yes,
the curry comes from and all sorts.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, and then you had like the whole aspect of, like there was that almost like a feeling, kind of almost like a resurgent feeling, and then like you mentioned about CIA involvement, but that's a topic for another day. But
yeah,
it's
it is.
fascinating. It
It
is
is.
fascinating.
I
But
mean, political topics can go on forever, but
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So at the end of my master's degree, I kind of just went with that momentum that I had. So I did some performances. One thing that I never ever did was perform my poetry. And my master's lecturer really pushed me towards it. So they got me in contact with a group in America, a theatre group from New York Theatre Company, I think they are. But I did a little production with them, and I got a really good response. Everybody was coming to me, I've got a business card, can you do this? And I didn't have anything at that time.
Was this in the UK, or did you pop over the
No,
States?
this was in the UK, so they had come and they were touring here.
Okay.
And so the facilitator of that, she was called Karen Conrad, and or Coonrod, Karen Coonrod actually, yeah. And she was great, and she kind of guided me into like how to perform. Yeah, so it was just like only had a few sessions with her, but she really helped me kind of find the voice of
So like getting like a
things.
stage presence and
Yeah,
projecting your
stage
voice.
presence. So like translating the words that were on the page into the stage. And then I did a little multidisciplinary exhibition with a few of the other master students, and I just took that momentum forward. I applied, and I worked with a lot of local companies. Like, I don't know if you know Shabazz from Building Bridges.
I don't know him personally, but I know of him. Yeah.
Yeah, so he was one of the first people I approached when I came back after COVID. It's like, look, I do have something that I want to say now that I'm back in Nelson. So can you guide me to the right places? So there was a company called the Super Slow Way, and they deal with like the canals on the Leeds and Liverpool Canal, just from Blackburn all the way to Bonalswick, and they or Barrowford, and they look after. And they do a lot of like canal side activities, and, like, regenerating the canal and things. So I started working with them, and yeah.
So from there, you kind of got a foothold in, and but then so you've done like kind of talks almost, or kind of presentations of poetry. I mean, I don't know the proper term for it, like because it's not a talk, is it? But it's
So what I do, because I am a creative, and I want to say, as I said to you before, writing is not a singular thing. So one thing that I do talk about is place and culture, right? And I think I'm quite not just interested in it, but I'm quite knowledgeable in how communities interact with each other, how people interact with each other. And that's a lot of from working in service industry, which I haven't talked about. I worked in bars and restaurants and this kind of things, but really connecting with people, bringing people together and helping people in what they want to do. So I think a lot of people just kind of ask me to come and
ah
help them in that way. I don't want to say help because it's a mutual kind of help that we give each other.
yeah.
So at the moment, I'm doing a residency up in Blackburn with the Super Slowway. So I've got a poetry residency up at a place called Enham Wharf.
Yeah, yeah, I know that. Yeah.
Yeah, so we've got they have a canal barge which they've repurposed, and they've actually built inside. I can show you some things later, but they've built a radio station inside.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Yeah, so they have the launch on the 31st of August. I don't know if it's going to be released by then, but the 31st of August, we have like it's called the Drift radio station. So they have, the Superstore, we have many projects. So the first project that I got involved with them was something called Small Bells Ring. And it was a canal boat that was repurposed or remade as a floating library. So it had the largest floating library of short stories in the UK, and they just trailed it up and down the canal. So I approached them. I said, "Look, I'm a writer. I would really love to stay on the boat and do something with the boat." So the producer Debbie Chan and the artist Heather Peake, who made the boat, I mean, it's a fantastic piece of equipment. Like,
Yeah, I'm
yeah,
looking for
it's
yeah,
all.
looking forward to seeing this. Yeah.
And so yeah, so I asked them, can I come? So they invited me along on side and on the boat. I did a little bit of work with them. They offered me to stay on the boat for a night, so I did that. Then they called me back, and I started writing some pieces for them. So in here, in this book, which I haven't talked about, there's a small sonnet that I wrote for them. And they asked me to come back a few times. So I've done quite a few things with them. They trained me to drive the canal on the canal boat, on
Yeah, but I
the
don't know.
canal, yeah, on the
Yeah.
barge. So I've got a license for that. But they've asked me to produce a short story. So I wrote a short story about our local forest, which is the Forest of Bowland. And yeah, so, but as I said, at the moment, I'm doing the residency with them up at Enham Wharf in Blackburn, which is excellent. So for 5 weeks, I've been um, just working with people. I've got like a little portable studio, right? So it's like mic, everything.
Yeah, yeah.
So I just take it around and record conversations with them.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to edit it, like you said, with the sound waves and all that. It's too complicated, but I'm
But
getting
yeah,
there. I'm
yeah,
getting
yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah. After this podcast, I'll give you some
Yeah.
tips and tricks that I use for my editing
So
and
yeah,
stuff
I'm
like that.
working with the Super Slowly, and I'm also working with the Pendle Council because Pendle Council's got its 50th anniversary. So they've asked me to commemorate it in some way.
Mm.
So I'm doing some, I'm doing some work with them with the health and food groups, kind of collecting their thoughts about the local area and about the food and about sports and
Oh yeah, because
activities. And it's
isn't
the
there a
summer schools.
food festival soon, isn't there? Was it gone?
Yeah, the food festival I think is on the 14th of September. But fortunately, I will also say I have a show on that day as well,
Yeah.
which I will perhaps talk about later.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. In fact, you know what? Tell us about that now.
So it's well, as Bash said, I do have quite a lot of things going on.
You
So
do.
one of the things that I got going on is that I have a theatre show coming on the 14th of September in Combe Uni, which has just reopened. So I'm going to have the whole theatre. So I'm supporting an act called Naomi Wood, who's from Bristol. She's touring her work. And so, yeah, we have like a double act going on. She has her solo show, I have my solo show. But it's none of this poetry. I'm actually doing like a performance, like a stage performance, something that Shakespeare would have put on.
Oh
But it's
yeah.
actually been quite difficult because I've been the writer, I'm going to be the performer, so I have to memorize it, I have to do all this kind of stuff. And I'm also having to give stage directions and
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
so complicated. And now I've just sent the emails out this morning, so it was so long, even just to write up them emails. And that's a separate side of creative practice that nobody talks about, the admin side of it, which is just tedious and non-stop.
The
But
bookings and the admin and
yeah,
the
it's non-stop. It does get a bit tedious, but yeah, I think once you decide that you're going to go forward for that, you just have to just know that that's all you.
yeah, yeah, you sound like a busy guy, man. I'm glad I got you today because,
Well,
yeah,
no, Alhamdulillah, the thing is, I just keep, like I said, I'm very open to what happens. So I just keep my diary open. I will talk about how I'm so free to do all of this kind of stuff because it's not like the average kind of life that I'm living. I'm afforded a lot of luxuries, if I can say that. Like, having taking time off to do things like this is not free and it's not easy. So,
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So, right. So we've talked about because one thing we haven't really done is we haven't gone specifically and said the
Yeah,
book.
so the book is an interesting thing. So during my master's degree, I was writing a lot about the place that I was. So I'm not sure if it's big enough on the screen. The opening of the book says "You are here," which is the first thing that you see on like a map, right? It's like a little circle, and I put the coordinates of my childhood home. I no longer live there, so it doesn't matter to me. But yeah, my childhood
Yeah,
home.
yeah, yeah.
And so I wrote this poetry collection and I wrote it not knowing where it's going to go. I wrote it just because it was something that I wanted to write. And I think that's one thing about the writing. I never knew where it was going to go. I was just doing it. And, at some point you come to really profound thoughts or really beautiful things that you've created and you think, oh, wow, that's mine. I didn't know I could make a sentence that beautiful, or I didn't know I could write something like that and give it to somebody else. So a lot of my work before this, because I said I came from heartbreak, so I was used to writing to people. So my love letters are just, beyond their
Expansive.
romantic level. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So, um, so I wrote this little collection, not knowing where it's going to go. And after my master's degree, I came across this publishing house called Pendle Press. So it's run by a guy called Sharif. And Sharif opened it because his father was an art teacher in Nelson and Con College,
All right.
right? And he passed away. So his father passed away, and he was an exile Libyan artist. So he lived under Gaddafi, ended up in Bridefield, and
Wow. Okay.
and so he was an artist, and he kind of was like a satirist kind of artist, and he did lots of work. Anyway, so Sharif, when his father passed away, was really looking to commemorate his life. That's also one thing that I will say. It's like the work that you do create in life, it lives on after you. Yeah, people can still hold it and touch it and read it and find out your thoughts. But Sharif really wanted to commemorate his father, so he put all of his works together, did an exhibition, put them together in a book, and ended up opening this company, Pendle Press. And so he was publishing a lot of things about northern English kind of art, like
Yeah.
Northern England, let's not say English, from art from Northern England, lots of cultural things like that. And I was looking at his work and I was really fitted with the kind of thoughts that I have. So I just approached him and said, I've got this little collection. What do you think about it? You know, he read it, he really liked it, and together we published it. And it was great. Yeah, Sharif did a lot of work to get this together. So he did most of the work getting it together. So that's one thing about the difference between being self-published and having a publisher do all the work for you.
That sounds awesome because
Yeah,
one of the
so
questions was going to be was how hard was it to get published? But it sounds like, you found a good partner.
I think I did, but I think I found him at the right moment as well because I was like really deeply involved in the creative practice. I had a good piece of work. You know, I'd been in the industry for a long time and I think I was emerging at that time. So at the same time as this, what happened was Lancashire County Council and a company called In Situ.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So In Situ approached me and they asked me to do a small commission for them to write a poem for Nelson. Don't know if you came across it at all.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because it's on socials. Yeah.
Yeah. So so they asked me to write a poem for Nelson. So I wrote this nice little poem. It took me like 3 months to write the poem because I was really thinking about it. What can I write for Nelson? And so I wrote this poem, and they gave me a huge display on the library for a few months. So my words were actually on the library. It was nice to have my words in a real space. So I launched them at the same day that poem that I wrote for Nelson and the poetry collection were both on the same day. So it gave me like this huge kind of portfolio of like things that I had done or have. And you know, even to have two collections about my hometown, it's quite.
Yeah. What was there? So outside of like the local reader, but what was the reception of your work like? On what is it currently like? Like how well has it gone?
I think the people who are in the industry kind of understand, yeah, oh, there's a new work and something is happening. So I do get a lot of like industry professionals coming to me and asking me to work with them,
Yeah,
perhaps.
nice.
Yeah. So like um like this show that I'm doing at the moment, you know, it's only come because I have previously done work like that. So the reception is quite good. I'm still learning how to give my work to people and plug my work to people as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And you know, when I was first writing, I never thought I would write a collection like this. So I haven't shown you any of it, but um it's quite measured and quite it's about the images and the place. It's not about the heart and it's not like an emotional connection. So it's not like it won't break your heart if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Even though
yeah,
that's
yeah.
why I first started writing.
Yeah.
But you know, when you get to a professional level, you'd realize, oh, there's different things that I can write about that are perhaps not the normal thing.
So
And I
you
don't think anybody else has written something like this, which
definitely
is
not. As far as I know, definitely not. I think you're definitely a front runner, especially for our little town of Nelson anyway. So what's next for you? So you've got obviously that the thing in the Muni.
yeah.
That's like obviously like a one-off performance. So like it's like an event. But in terms of projects, so long-term projects, what's next for you?
It's very hard. As I said, I'm very open to what happens. I don't plan things like a lot of people do. I'm just open to whatever happens. I have a lot of equipment at the moment and a lot of things to do. I am going to do the show on the 14th. If it goes well, I perhaps will tour it. So I've got my book, I've got all of the other things that I've done, the short stories and the poetry that I've written for other people, for other companies, and I can just put them all together into a coherent Ajaz Qureshi variety show. that kind of,
Yeah.
not to, yeah, but yeah, perhaps touring, because I realize touring is where a lot of money is made. Not
Yeah.
money in that sense, but also people come to know you, get to know who you are. Like any famous comedian that you meet, they have toured their acts. You know, that's how they come.
Have you ever tried to crack the Pakistani market, like the proper traditional old school Shero Shehri Urdu market? Or is that just like that's just a different thing altogether, isn't it?
The thing is, because I write so many different things, I'm sure a few of the things that I have written will resonate with them.
Yeah.
Like I did when I was in Saudi Arabia, I wrote a lot of poetry about Arabia, about Islam, and about their cultures and things like that. So yeah, but it's really hard for me. We were talking about branding earlier. It's like what kind of writer I am, because I write a lot of different kind of things.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You're not like just in a narrow field. Just
yeah.
whatever comes to you, you'll write about it basically.
Yeah, I will write about it, and I'll write about it in the way that I think it deserves to be written about. Yeah, and sometimes that's just taking my own voice out of it, and my own background, and my own Pakistani heritage. But don't get me wrong, I do want to create something that does resonate with them. Like I look at somebody like Riza Ahmed, who really does, who
Yeah.
does lots of filmmaking, but still keeps his Pakistani essence, you know, and he still talks about it, and still.
Yeah, actually, I got to rate him for that because he hasn't.
He hasn't,
Yeah.
yeah, he doesn't let go. Like one of his most recent films or his most recent album, I don't know if you came across it. It's called The Long Goodbye.
Oh, goodbye. Okay.
And so he released an album and a short film at the same time, and it's about being Pakistani and British, and the whole album is like it's called The Breakup, and it's about him. You know, it's like England breaking up with India and splitting it. It's a
Yeah,
really good
so
album, but the whole album is that concept, and the short film is quite. I don't want to give any spoilers, but it's haunting. It's something like 12 minutes long. It's quite haunting. Yeah.
he's a very talented guy as
He's a
well.
very, and one of his first films was like Four Lions, and it's a comedy and maybe a bit on the nose, but
But it's on the nose. But it's the way they did Four Lions is just like
it was,
there was a lesson at the end of it, and it's like despite they somehow made it funny. Genuinely, I did find it funny,
it was hilarious.
isn't it?
It was laugh out loud funny. Yeah.
But there's like the serious message underneath at the same time, just showing how people can be literally like misguided and wound up and sent out. But that's a topic for another day anyway.
There's so many topics for other days, and I
Yeah.
don't know if there's enough days to cover all the topics, but
Yeah. I mean, look, the way I see it is, and I've been encouraging with other guests as well, is like it doesn't have to be that one podcast is everything. So there's going to be so like
of course.
I've got a few other people lined up who are going to be long term, and inshallah, I hope you become a long term one as well, where we can narrow down on specific
discuss
areas and
something
topics and
else.
stuff because that's more benefit to the community.
I
Yeah,
think in that way, I think I have to say that about poetry as well. When I first started writing, it had to be everything at that moment, everything said, you know?
yeah.
Yeah. And but I realized at some point it's not about that. Sometimes it's about what you don't say. You know, some things are hidden and people understand that it's there.
I've got to give you credit for your honesty as well, because when you said it took you 3 months to do that poem, because trust me, there's people out there that would just be like, oh, I just did that in 5 minutes. Just kind of look good and stuff. Whereas actually, it's
It was
like
a
no,
quite a deep process. It like perhaps I will show you the poem, form the poem for the podcast. But yeah, so the poem is called "This Town is an Old Hand-Me-Down Sweater."
go
Right,
for it.
I will perform it, but it was really interesting when I first came to it. It was like I was thinking about it for ages. I'm like a little incubator, like I hold things inside and warm them up, and then sometimes they'll become a little baby that I give to the world.
Right.
And so I was thinking about it for ages, and I asked my mum. I said, "Mum, what you spent a lot of time here, you grew up here, but you spent a lot of time here. What do you feel about Nels?" And she said, "Oh, this community used to be really tight knit," and I really felt that, and I was like, "What can I do with that idea?" So I took that idea and made it into like a metaphor of knitting and jumper.
Ah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So this town was like, yeah.
Right, we'll have to. Well, I'd encourage all the viewers and listeners. I mean, I'll link it in the description of the
Yeah,
video as
actually,
well.
there is a video online of me
Yeah,
doing
I'll
it.
link it, and then. But now that they've got some more context, so then they can listen to it a few times, and let's see if they get it. And then the next time you come on, you can break it down, and we'll see who got it right, basically. But no, I didn't. Yeah, I won't say I didn't realize it took that much effort. It's just I don't think I ever appreciated just how much time creativity takes. Just because I'm an IT nerd, we just see stuff, do stuff.
Yeah, I mean, they say for a minute of video recording, how long does it take you to edit a minute of
Oh,
video?
bloody hell!
And
Like,
that's the same for a word, that's the
yeah, yeah,
same
yeah,
for a
yeah.
sentence.
It's just, yeah, it's like when whenever I do client video work, not to plug my own business, but BashTalk Media. Whenever I do that, like typically I'll go from I'll need like an hour, but hours worth of footage, and that generally after that I'll get like 2 minutes usable. Even then, if they want something shorter and
Yes.
flashier, I need more, and they don't understand that. And it's the same thing for yourself. So if they said to you, right as a point, I'm waiting, I'll come back in an hour, you'd be like, no, it doesn't work like
No, yeah.
that.
It takes time, it takes thought. I think that's the most important thing. It takes thought if you want to create something that's purposeful and has a meaning inside it. I mean, don't get me wrong, some poems have taken me minutes to write.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like, but maybe it's not that it's taken me that minute, it's taken me my whole life to
Get those
write.
words.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like,
But yeah, some things I've been working on for years and I'm still not finished. Yeah, they're in there somewhere and But as you said, you can't work on it. You can't have everything at once. You can't work on everything at
yeah.
once as well. And you have to live your life and do your other things.
Well, one last question before we round off for the day, which is I was going to ask you if you ever get writer's block or if that's even a thing.
A lot of people like to say it's not a thing, but I think it is a thing. I think you can get blocked in anything in life, even emotionally blocked, you can get,
Hmm.
So you can get blocks. But my advice for writing experience is just live life, that's the most important thing. If you live a life well enough, you'll definitely want to write about it. Or you
Yeah,
definitely want to show it in some way.
yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah.
even mark it in some way. I know a lot of us keep our memory ourselves, even our emotions and our experiences to ourselves. But when something happens, you want to tell other people. You want to show it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that's a good way to look at it because it's like the way sometimes writers block. Because I mean, if you look at it from like if you see an example of it in like TV or video, obviously they have to dramatize it and make it look different to what it actually is. So it might just be a case of, maybe I'm not feeling as inspired today. Whereas if according to the movies, it's just like my pen will not move on this piece of paper for 3 months until something magic happens, or you know,
Alhamdulillah, I've been a creative for so long that all of my creativity comes together. So if I'm not writing, I'm editing something else, I'm making something else, I'm doing a lot of audio stuff at the moment, I've got a lot of videos. My photo bank is like 35,000 photos that I'm organizing at the moment. There's always something little to do, and we
yeah,
talked about admin before. The admin is non-stop,
yeah,
and because I am in a position that I'm always looking for more opportunities as well. So I'm always on these writers' websites and things like that, looking for things where I can put myself. So it's not just that people are coming to me. I'm actively out there and saying to people, "Look, here I am."
brilliant.
Yeah, here I am.
So what I'll do is I'll round off the podcast
Of
today
course,
just for the
perfect.
yeah,
Yeah.
because we're on a nice like 45 to 47, 48 minute block, so that's perfect. And then what we'll do is the next time inshallah you come on, we'll start bringing in like all the topics and all the different areas, and we can even start breaking down some of your poems as well. That'd be good.
Yeah, inshallah, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and then but the last thing I normally do is I always give the guest an opportunity. If there's anything you want to like have, if you've got your own personal message, anything you want to say for the viewers, and just bear in mind that I've got quite a few younger viewers and listeners that might be just a bit uninspired at the moment. So if you've got anything you want to say, now's a good chance to say it.
I think I've said it a few times, which is just be open. One of the things that really helped me in life is just being open to other people's experiences, their stories, what they have to offer. Even if they don't want to have to, even if they're closed up, just still be open with them. We live in a place where it's a small place and we are our community. I think that's the one biggest change that happened to me was that once I realized that when I was young, I really didn't feel like I had an impact in the world, on the world.
Yeah,
And now that I'm older, I realize, these one-to-one interactions that I have, or even just giving somebody tea or water or something as small as that,
yeah,
it's the effect that I have on the world. And it is your choice how you affect the world. And so, yeah.
yeah. Mashallah, you know what? I really enjoyed this podcast
Yeah.
though.
So I might close off with a poem for the
Please do.
audience.
It would be the
Not
ideal
not from
outro.
here. I will But if anybody does want to get this, it's on the Pendle Press website, or you can just see me in the street. I'm always about. So yeah. So that's pendlepress.co.uk. It's called Full Nelson. Yeah. Do you know what a full Nelson is,
Yes, it's a
Bash?
wrestling movie.
It's a
Yeah.
wrestling move. So why do you think it's called Full Nelson?
Hmm. I'm trying to think.
What did we say on the way into the studio? A place you can never escape.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And there's that
Ah,
metaphor there of like
yeah,
that inescapable hold. Like
yeah.
once it's got you, it's
Once it,
Nelson.
that's
So
it. You know, Nelson just it's just a heart, isn't it? But yeah. So go on,
all right,
round us,
okay.
see us out. But just do me
So
one favor. Yeah, keep that stable, and then I can use this as an outro as well. So Bismillah.
be like a river. From the mountain top, catch the downpour and flow gently down. Don't stop. You can't stop. Follow the pines as they rise along rich valleys and climb over hills and slip down again by the city where people would gladly pull pails of water from your side. Be like the river and give as a giver. For the water taken doesn't take, and the loss is again, and the waters will come back to fill you, full of feeling. So like the river, go forth fulfilled, and run out into the open, alongside countryside, into suburbs, giving water to all you pass, and follow yourself to the place that you dam, and overflow into a pool or a lake, and lay still in winter freeze, and melt warm in summer heat, and move fiercely in spring, sprung like flowers and ferns on the left bank. Be like the river where men make camp, and children play and splash in the waters, and women wade out to fish the fish, and to catch the trout, and to sift the gold out of the wet folds of earth beneath you, your golden bed. Be like the river where the deer come silently for their morning waters, and where wary foxes arrive deep in the night scavenging, and where swallows dip mid-flight to quench their thirst, and wait still as the crowd and wait still as the deer approach and crouch to lap bloody tongues at your surface. With purpose, be like the river, and when you cry, cry into yourself, and when you overflow, let others drink, and when you are heavy with sediment, that of yourself and that of others, you will know strength, and you will flow still with force out to the sea, out to the ocean, and back to the source. Be like the river. Thank you, Bash.
Awesome. Respect. Over and out, everybody.